series now continues.
Why would I want to spend even 1 minute in this office if I didn't have to?
Right.
And yet I have to. I have to come back. I mean, it's like a magnet. I need the healing. I need your healing powers, Joanne. I need you. I need, we all need each other, too. We all need each
That's
other.
very important, each other. I know everyone in group has had trouble with their families, honoring their memories, respecting them, believing them. Everyone in group
Across
has
the country,
experienced that.
thousands of women meet in groups to recall and share memories of sexual abuse.
Okay, and
Joanne
so I know
Stillwagon's
this is
group
gonna
meets in
encourage
Southern
us to be
California.
important because family is very important, and it's hard to find yourself the outcast in the family because you're the one that's talking about the family secret. What happens as a survivor, especially a survivor of molestation, sexual molestation? The people around you are not going to believe you. Most of the time, 90% of the times, if it's incest, the family's going to turn against you. The mother, the father, and your siblings. So you're out in the world alone with these memories. You're the family enemy because you're telling the secret, all right? And so these survivors begin to be your family as you're going through this process. Are you having any memories? Mm-hmm. Do you want to share any that have been coming up?
How graphic should I be?
The truth. Just come from a place of truth.
Well, I don't know, it's kind of hard for me to say. I guess ever since I've been married and I've been sober off the drugs and alcohol, having intercourse with Sean is just getting more and more like I'm starting to remember that my perpetrator had sex with me, and I smell him and I feel him.
Growing up, I was terrified of the water, and I didn't realize why. I mean, when I went in the bathroom for any reason, I'd lock the door.
My youngest sister accused me of breaking up the family, and she said she'll never talk to me again, so I feel a real loss. I'm just grieving.
For the first time in their life, they got somebody here who's going to listen to them that believes them, and I do believe them, and I've never had a person come in my office that I don't believe, and I tell them that I believe them. That they have someone now, like a safety net, that they can start letting it out.
Dr. Michael Yapko is a clinical psychologist and specialist in hypnosis who recently published a book in which he criticizes the techniques that many therapists use in recovering memories.
The recovery therapist tends to view problems in terms of a presumed history of abuse. And so by looking for abuse, expecting to find abuse, it's no surprise when they uncover abuse. I think it was psychologist Abraham Maslow who once said that if the only tool that you have is a hammer, then everything around you begins to look like a nail.
I didn't have any memories until I was over 60 years old. I didn't have any memories until both of my parents died, and they were so powerful. My father started molesting me when I was an infant, and he stopped when I don't even know when he stopped. The abuse was extreme. I was physically beaten. Both my mother and my father molested me sexually. I was put into a wooden box that was a punishment.
Therapists believe these stories because they are taught to believe philosophically, therapeutically, that in order to help your patient, you have to believe them.
He sent me out to prostitution when I was about 8 or 9.
And so what we find out is that as the person becomes increasingly immersed in the belief system that abuse happened, and then with each subsequent session they're encouraged to recover more detail and more detail and more detail, and now the therapist is getting immersed more deeply in the beliefs too, at which point it's hard to tell who's hypnotizing who at this point. Now we watch the allegations week by week grow and grow and grow. So what might have started out as a simple experience of sexual abuse, by weeks later, it's satanic ritual abuse. Our dad killed the pizza delivery guy and made us eat his gallbladder, and the stories just get more and more bizarre.
What I've been remembering is a lot of torture by my mother and my grandmother and 2 uncles, and the group that they were involved in, they tortured children, and sometimes they killed them. But I can remember a Halloween, a child came to my door and transposed on his face with the face of a little boy that I seen murdered. And it was such
3
a
years
shock
ago,
that I
Joanne
got
herself
through
suddenly remembered that she too
him
had been
history
sexually
from
abused as a child.
I have 2 granddaughters, and when my second little granddaughter was born, she was very, very blonde, and she had a little curvy body. And she was 18 months old, and when she started walking and talking, I began to have flashbacks of severe sexual abuse. And my abuse was ritual abuse, and as I began to remember this, as the memories came, I myself had almost a nervous breakdown. I began to have flashbacks of horrendous ritual abuse, torture, sexual abuse.
Hundreds of these stories have been told and published in the last few years by self-proclaimed abuse survivors and people who interviewed them. The most famous of these books is The Courage to Heal, co-written by Ellen Bass.
In the vast majority of the situation, someone who says that he or she was sexually abused was indeed sexually abused, and in a very small percentage of situations that wasn't true. It's very hard for all of us to face that it happens. It's very hard to face not only that children have been subjected to this, but it's even hard to face that people are capable of doing this to others. And anyone who has been a part of that is likely to have suffered some kind of traumatic amnesia in the process, because when you're talking about a situation that has an extremely high level of terror and physical pain combined, the whole process, what we're learning now and what the memory research is showing and what we document, the whole process of laying down the memories is not only emotionally different but physiologically different.
Look, all theories are possible. That's what scientific data gathering is all about, so that you can get some facts about life, and you can match those facts up against theoretical claims, and then we'll find out what the truth is. Now, it may turn out that when all of those facts come in, that all of the claims that memories are made, lost, and recovered, maybe those will turn out to be valid. I'm saying something that's very simple. We do not know them to be valid at the present time. Theories don't make them true. Asking me to trust you doesn't make them true. Evidence is what we need in order to be able to draw conclusions about the validity of various hypotheses or theories.
If scientists were with me doing this work, I don't think they would be able to doubt it. They would see it in front of them, and it's very real when you see it and you hear it and you feel it.
Well, as you know, I mean, I pushed men away in my adult life a lot, and I put them through a lot to get close to me.
Sarah Lee Blum is a therapist in Seattle who uses regression techniques with her clients.
And I'm just real hypervigilant about that.
The kinds of clients that come to me are usually people who were abused, traumatized as children, and the decisions that they made because of the trauma have led them to have great difficulties in their adult lives.
I want to overpower. I want to overpower men. I want to be stronger, and I want to make them not like me.
They often don't know that they were traumatized at all. They only know that in their adult life, they're pretty miserable, and that their life isn't working the way that they would like it to. And it's not until they're in therapy for a while that usually the trauma becomes known.
The shower thing keeps coming up. We were in the shower together, and I don't remember what happened. I just remember the terror of seeing his naked body, and you know how I am
How old are you?
Well, I was under 5. I was under 5.
You're in the bathtub, and the water's on. Feel your little body. She has had a variety of different types of abuse memories, and in the course of accessing her abuse memories, some of them she determined were sexual abuse. And her first response is to want to run from it.
I don't want to be there.
Yeah, I see that. You don't want to be there. You want to go, huh? What stops you?
He won't let me go.
What do you mean he won't let you go? How is he stopping you? Breathe, Kim. How's he stopping you?
He's holding my shoulder.
He's holding your shoulder. Okay. Okay. Now bring the fullness of you. Bring the grown-up you. The fullness of your womanhood. Bring her in there with you. Call her in.
I don't have to stay in here.
No, you don't have to stay in there. You don't have to stay in there.
I don't have to stay in here. No! Go away! Get out of here! Get out of here!
And when a client gets far enough into the memory, I won't allow them to back out of it. Because it's better for them, rather than to re-traumatize them, that they go through it.
I can see you.
Yeah, and you can feel me too. Yeah. When the memory comes up, it's like a flashback. And so they're in the actual experience of being abused. Yeah, you're not alone. You're not alone anymore, Kim.
I can tell you how close to get.
Yes.
You'll listen.
Yes, you can tell us how close to get, and we will listen.
The use of regression therapy has flourished in the last 10 years.
That's the difference.
When I was working inpatient in a psychiatric hospital in the Phoenix area several years ago, I started to have clients come to me who were describing a new phenomenon. They were telling me that after years of not remembering trauma, sexual, physical abuse, that suddenly they were able to remember. They were able to see it very, very vividly. They were crying, they were hurt, very distraught over these discoveries. It was fascinating to me. That's where I started checking into the phenomenon of regression and studying regression therapy. In the hospital where I was at the time, everybody was doing it and having dramatic, fascinating results along with it. And so went to seminars, I learned the techniques, did some reading, got some individual supervision as well, and started to do regression therapies. Sure enough, with my first few clients that I was working with, they were getting images of trauma that they had never remembered that had occurred 20, 30, 40 years earlier.
When they access a memory, they are doing it out of what's coming up from within them. And the body doesn't lie, nor does the psyche lie. When they have emotion, deep feeling, they're hurt or they're terrified, I don't think that people make that up.
You deserve to be loved, Mary. You're here to be loved, not hurt. Yeah. You're here to be loved.
They were intelligent, articulate women who would come in the door, and by the next day I'd come back on the unit and their they're balled up in a corner, crying and speaking with a little 5-year-old's voice about how horrible everything is. And it was shocking. It was shocking to me to see this kind of deterioration in these inpatient people. And all the therapists around me were telling me, this is wonderful. This means that they've finally broken through to the memories, and this is a part of the healing process for them.
Go all the way down into your 3-year-old. All the way down into him. 3-year-old Roger, with all those feelings and all those needs. Being right there with your mom. And this time, not stuck. This time you have a voice. And this time you have strength. This time you can express yourself the way you need to and the way you want to. Yeah. Yeah.
Get over here. I want you right here in front of me. I want you over here, right now. I want you right here in front of me, right this minute. Stop that crying, or I'll give you something to cry about.
No.
Get over here and sit down and shut up. Get over here and sit down and shut up. Get over here, sit down and shut up. Get over here. I want you over here right now. I want you here.
I see people every day, many people every day, who are accessing what I tend to call submerged memories rather than repressed memories, but they're accessing them not necessarily because of choice, but because they're in great pain in their lives and they're wanting to heal.
No!
You're not listening. I want you to shut up.
No!
I wasn't seeing my clients get better. And in fact, what I was seeing was they were getting worse. So I went out and did my own study, looked at the research, looked at what had already been published. Frankly, regression wasn't there. All these things that I've been told in the different kinds of training seminars, they weren't proving true in my own studies. So what I did was I turned around to the clients that I had done regression work with. I contacted them. I gave them what articles I could find on the subject and let them know I have some very serious concerns about these things that you've seen while we've been doing hypnosis.
That you yourself have been doing.
Oh yeah, that I was doing with them. And I let them know I have very good reason to believe that your images are not necessarily real.
And as you drift, with every breath you take, feel yourself getting younger and younger, all the way back down to that time, a long time ago, when your life was just beginning. People, as I said, they're here to heal. And in their process, they can go as far back as their own psyche will allow them, their own consciousness will allow them to go. And as you drift, memories go back as far back as we can imagine. Not everybody can access them way far back, but some do. Some people can access birth memories. It's okay, I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm right here. Feel me here. Feel me here. There are some people that go even beyond conception. But like the woman that accessed a memory from when she was in the fallopian tube and got stuck. And this stuckness has hurt her in her adult life. See what's stopping you? I'm right here. What's there? What's in there? And so when she is able to change that in some way, she can move forward with ease in her life. And that needs to be corrected at the source of the problem, which for her was in the fallopian tube. What's in there? What's in there?
In many ways, psychology has become the religion of this century. 100 years ago, if you had questions about the meaning of your life, an inability to have satisfaction, whatever it was, you could go to the village priest and you could talk to them and find comfort. If you had guilt over something that you'd done, you could go to confession and receive relief, a granting of forgiveness. Well, in today's world, in many, many ways, the psychologist, the therapist has replaced the village priest. So if I'm a person who lacks meaning in life, or I feel badly, or whatever it is, I can go seek out the therapist to find meaning in life, to find the answers that they're desperately seeking.
Let's just start by letting the energy flow between us. I'm going to ask you to imagine that you were taking the energy in through your left hand.
If therapy has replaced religion, it also splintered into many sects.
Establish a sense of energy balance and tranquility between us.
Steve Thayer was an electrical engineer at Bell Laboratories in New Jersey before he turned to healing through what he believes is the recovery of cellular memories.
I work with something called energy-based body work, combining it with the power of dialoguing techniques. And I put them into one practice that is focused specifically at the healing of suppressed cellular emotions. Give her permission to just speak.
Heather is a housewife and has 2 children. She hasn't been as happy, she says, as she should be. She began to suspect that this might be connected to some forgotten childhood sexual abuse. She decided to pursue it.
It's safe to tell.
No.
Why?
Because of all the things that he said. That no one would love me, that no one would believe me. I feel like he's still around. Somehow he'll know and he'll hurt me.
Amazing attribute that the shoulders have is they store all the memory and all the trauma around the idea of should. Let's start to bring forward any emotions, any memories around the word should. If you were sexually abused and the experience was internalized, in other words, it was more traumatic than you could experience at the time, then you would have repressed into the cells of your body very, very powerful feelings. So I would be looking for fear, I would be looking for anger, feelings of powerlessness, things like that. Okay, let's remind that little inner child of yours that he was wrong.
Heather is going to 3 different therapists, trying to uncover memories.
I felt that it was important for my own healing to fill in some of the blanks around the memories that I had. I felt like I needed a more complete picture before I could really work on the healing. So I started doing hypnotherapy with Dr. Jarman. And under hypnosis, I would remember the rest, fill in the blanks.
Just rest there and heal in the light. Let the light shine on you, warm you, heal you. That's right. This is your time to stop and rest and do nothing and just soak up some more of that limitless energy. That's it.
Dr. Robert Jarman is a psychiatrist who practices present and past life hypnotherapy. He lives and works in New Jersey.
Be guided back to the next thing that you're ready to see. You're doing fine.
It's a hot sunny day and I'm playing at the edge of the water by the dock. But I can feel him watching me. I started having memories about 1.5 years ago. They were snapshots or parts of a movie or feelings that I would have, different things would trigger.
That's it.
And he takes my bathing suit off. And then all I can feel is his hand on my neck, holding me there, and just this weight on my body.
Was the sexual abuse validated?
Yes, I think that if it were a memory that was not so, that just kind of popped up in the hypnotherapy and it hadn't really happened, I don't think that I would have all these other symptoms in my life of the sexual abuse.
Go forward now to the next significant thing that happens. It's okay.
Dr. Bessel van der Kolk is an associate professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School and the director of the trauma unit at Mass General Hospital.
Every time people tell a story, it's basically a story that is looking for somebody to believe you, to be convinced. Of vital importance for a person's well-being, own well-being, is to make a narrative of their own life that makes sense to them. And for people's own well-being, the accuracy of one's own story about oneself is not critical. We all tell tales about ourselves. We all have images of ourselves that are not entirely in keeping with the reality of one's life. But we need to have a coherent version of ourselves.
There's your sky again, your little island beach where no one can harm you. You're safe there.
Pam is Heather's mother. She is a teacher.
No one can find you.
8 years ago, when she was diagnosed with cancer, she went into therapy to find out if there was an emotional reason for it.
My cancer really came from a lot of emotional repression. Anything that was painful at all, any of the painful emotions, I would just repress, just stuff it right down. Of course, you know, I was then not authentic either. You know, Sally Sunshine is not an authentic person. I remember one of the sessions with Dr. Jarman, I said, you know, he asked me, what would you like to be like? If you want to be authentic, you know, think of somebody that intrigues you or that would be a good role model. So I had recently read a book on 10 visionary women. And it was very interesting about how they had grown, and I said to him, it was a fascinating book. I learned a lot, and there's some characteristics I would like to build into myself. But you know, what startled me, a number of these 10 women had been sexually abused as children. And I said, you know, it rather terrifies me that how can people walk around and not know awful things have happened to them in the past? And I said, you know, could this possibly be, you know, part of my past? And he said, well, there's one way to find out.
What room is this?
Her bedroom.
Okay. Who is she? What's her name? You know her first name? Okay.
Anne.
Anne, okay. What's her name?
Under hypnosis, Pam remembered that her babysitter, Anne, had molested her.
She asked me to play games.
Really? Has she done that before?
Yes.
Yeah. How old are you? About how old are you?
5.
Why are you so upset?
Because I know what she's gonna do, and I'm powerless. I can't scream.
It's okay.
She's touching me.
Yeah.
And she wants me to touch her. I don't like it. I hate her white skin, and it's got freckles on it.
Yeah.
And it's moist. It's cold. It's kind of dampy cold. And it's something gooey. I don't know. This is awful.
It's all right. We're just watching an old movie. Take a rest now. Go to the light. Go back to the light. This person is here to heal, not to pull up old skeletons out of the closet or create them. I never let a person stop with that. When we open his closet and all kinds of horrors things come out, you know, I say, well, good, all right, we found where the problem is. Now we go to the next step, which is to heal the problem. Now, I want you to imagine you're going backwards in time. You're inside your mother's womb, protected from the outside world. Once you've rested enough, you can be guided back to a previous time, a previous life. Look down at your feet when you get there and tell me what you start to see as you start to see your feet.
I'm wearing sandals. They're decorated. They have jewels on them. There's a strap that comes up between the toes and around the ankles. I'm a woman. A woman of means. I have many servants. One of my servants,
yes,
I know who she is.
Good. You know who she is in another lifetime?
Yeah.
I see.
She was Anne.
She was Anne. Oh, all right. Tell me about it.
Pam would also remember that Anne, the babysitter who had molested her, had been in a previous life her servant, whom she apparently had badly mistreated.
And I think that's why I was particularly harsh with her, because I sensed rebellion, and it was like a challenge to me. It was a challenge to my power and my ego.
You look angry now.
Oh no, I feel real bad about it.
Is this just some confabulation on the part of the person? I don't think it is. Fortunately, I don't have to know. People come here, and I am here to help them heal. And if they see that in a past life they abused that person that in this life had passed them, and I, in working with them, pick up that this is the resolution for them, and now they don't need to go off and sue their father or whatever else. Great. You have your peacefulness. You have your resolution. That's paid. Now you can put it to rest.
There is a particular culture that develops between the therapist and the patient, because the patient comes and the patient is anxious, the patient is confused, the patient has a general sense of malaise. In the therapy, suddenly there is an aha experience. All of these vague things that affected my life have a cause, have a root. If we are able to challenge that root, everything will be better. So this sense of aha is tremendously exciting feeling for the patient. Now, it's not everything is vague and anxious and confusing. Now, there is a reason for all of that.
We were at the market.
Yeah.
Dawn, a therapist herself, had experienced physical problems whose roots she thought were in the past.
Trembling, are you frightened? Yes. Why?
I've had various degrees and kinds of stomach disorders my entire life, including my early childhood, that there was never any medical reason for me to have that. Just always sick to my stomach.
The king chooses the dancers to be with him.
I see.
I know he's going to choose me.
Yeah.
Tracing the roots of her problem took Dawn to the 1st century A.D.,
Doesn't bother Kate?
No.
Why?
when she believes her stomach was slashed and she was killed.
What happens next? Do they take you somewhere?
They take me to the square.
Yeah. And then what?
And there are many soldiers there.
Yeah.
Oh, I mustn't scream.
Why? Because you're trying to be brave?
I have to have dignity. I can't take my dignity.
When I was actually being killed, I had made this decision not to scream, to die with dignity. The screams were just trapped, the terror was trapped in my body. I think that's what the sick to my stomach has always been about.
That's it. Get it out. That's it. That's it. That's it. Go to when your spirit leaves your body.
I see it as very real, very real. Why would somebody make something up like that? And how do you manufacture those kinds of emotions? How do you do that?
Our program, Divided Memories, will continue after this short break. This is PBS, the public broadcasting